I started online classes last week and I wanted to cover a few things from my time as a virtual student at McGill University. And I also want to talk about how I navigate or how I plan to navigate through the different facets of my life. Let's start with my classes. I see that professors are moving away from heavyweight finals where a final exam is going to determine 70% of your grade to a bit more spread out schedule where you have assignments, you have quizzes, you have tutorial attendances that are going to be counted in. The thing with that is the pro or the advantage that comes with that is I personally think that students, including myself, we learn better when we're pushed to different assignments, especially in the CS realm, where we have more continuous work. The challenges that we're going to get in assignments are much harder and it requires more critical thinking. And I think people will pay attention to every facet and every part of the course if they're going to be given continuous assessment. For example, in my case, I'm not going to think about how I can hack my way through an exam. I'm instead going to think about how I could diligently go through the content that I'm going to get. I'm not a huge fan of, writing a huge chunky final on something like software design or data science or something very practical like that. I truly think that, people should be exposed to code. There are some courses that I've taken where these are really practical courses, but they were just converted to just a bunch of MCQ exams and a final. I truly do not understand the point of that and what people get from that. I enjoy this consistent learning experience much better, and I think I'm being pushed in the right direction. McGill is going to push people anyway, but I think I'm going to be pushed in the right direction when I'm continuously assessed through the year, and I don't think a bad day or a bad moment is going to spoil my entire grade or the entire effort I'm going to put into a course. I'm also really enjoying at least one class that I'm taking. I'm enjoying two of them. Linear algebra is going great, but data science, the introduction to data science class is really, really great, and I am truly grateful for this class. And I also understand how practical classes, if done right, could really change a student's life. Because in my case, I'm actually noticing myself that I'm going back to this course, and I'm actually going back to these lectures, and I'm really understanding what the prof is saying. I'm really digesting this content in a very curious manner. And it's not a feeling that I always have with university courses. A lot of my learning is very self-motivated, so it's very nice to have an accountability system set up with the likes that I have with certain fields. The disadvantages that come with a spread out schedule and online classes and the way assessment is done in this manner is that it requires a lot of consistent effort to the courses that you're taking. And much more consistent effort than any other semester I've experienced, at least, because like I said before, you're not thinking about how to hack your way through a course, but you're thinking about, okay, the amount of time that you should give per week, or you're constantly focusing on how to master a specific section on this course and doing that over the 4 months. And yeah, for sure, I think it can get hectic. I can already sense my semester getting hectic, and I can see that my calendar is being added, and my to-do lists are much bigger than it was before when it comes to the first week of campus. But at least there is much more clarity and there is much more control that we can have with our schedules, and we know where we can put our times. I'm saying that it's going to be difficult, especially when your college experience is kind of taken away from you. But I think given the circumstance, this is the best way to go about it instead of having heavyweight finals. I shall move on to talking about my extracurriculars. I have a bit of an announcement. I was chosen as the lead for Google's Developer Student Clubs chapter at McGill. And I am low-key pretty proud of this moment because, I had to work for the last 2 years with a lot of people and, learn a lot, especially as someone starting coding at university, at the level of university, and, coming from a background that didn't really have a lot of tech involved. So this is pretty cool for me, and this is a bit of a moment for me. I shall speak about that in depth later. But what I want to say in this chapter or this episode of content is that I'm thrilled to be in this position of leadership once again after working with people. And with that, there's this sense of accountability that is bestowed upon you. I have to set deadlines, I have to work on deadlines, I have to work on tasks, set tasks for other people, think about deliverables and the vision of the club and what we're doing and where we are in terms of our progress checks. And even small things like setting up the club, setting up like Facebook pages, setting up interviews and things of that nature. And with that set of responsibilities, I need to be I am put in this position of accountability, right? And that means that I really need to be in track and be in control of what I am doing and be aware of what I'm doing and be responsible. So like back in the day, I never really resorted to productivity apps or to-do lists or things like that. Everything was on my mind, or if I just wrote it down on a notebook and I just like cut things off. And I think that worked for me. I tend to forget things, but I still somehow got things to work. But I realized that that's not gonna work when I'm in a position of like responsibility, because there's a lot that you need to think about, a lot that you need to do, and things could easily slip your mind, or things might just just like float around if you don't control or set the pace for the club. So I decided to just put my entire the entire university life kind of thing on paper, or rather in this case on a digital platform. And I did a lot of research on the different productivity apps that I can use, and I dialed down and I just stick to Notion at the end of it. And honestly, my life has changed from that point on. I'm forgetting less. I'm actually not forgetting anything, because like everything's just right on there, and I just like go through my Notion every single day, and I make sure that I'm not too late or too behind, or I'm not behind at all on the things that I have to do. And I'm performing much better than I would have on a normal day. And I'm so glad that like I actually considered that. So I'm really pushing this onto you. I will speak about how someone can use Notion efficiently once I really master the platform. But for now, I would suggest people really start off and just like start organizing their days and their like missions and ideas on Notion, because it's really like this all-in-one workspace that you can use, and like it's done. It's literally my favorite app, and it's really put my life upside down, and it really helps you stay productive and focused in a time where you can really lose yourself and just like not be in track of what you're doing. There's a lot of things that will be pushed on you, and especially if you're really involved in school, I think this really certainly helps a lot, for sure. Recruiting is a very self-motivated activity. There is no deadline, there is no one in your head about something that should be done. You're not gonna get a fair grade if you don't do it. But it's probably the hardest and the most essential part of your university career, recruiting, especially if you want to get into industry, right? People need to really cut off a chunk of their day, because this is something that I really need to work on. Like recruiting is probably the least well-functioning facet of my life or my career right now. But it's probably the most important thing too. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm trying to cut off a chunk of my day, or at least a chunk of my week, to say, okay, I'm definitely going to do recruiting at this time. There is nothing else I'm going to do at this time. I'm definitely going to segment a day or like a time for recruiting, so that I am very much in like it could be just like filing an application, or it could be like speaking to someone, or like at least doing research on a specific company on the internet. Whatever it is, like I will definitely allocate time for it. Otherwise, I will prioritize that down. And something that I've always realized is, when the day goes around, there are so many things that you cannot control, which results in you not completing all the tasks that you planned on doing. And if you like prioritize recruitment lower, or like put recruitment towards the end of the day, then you tend to lose track of that, and like not you basically end up doing nothing about it. I think it's very important to like prioritize that more, and make sure that you put a lot of conscious effort into doing that, because no one's going to come behind you and get you to recruit or anything. So I just thought of like putting it out there, and just like making sure that I just want to make sure that people are like keeping that in their heads when they're going through university life. I also wanted to cover my social life and my relationships in this new normal. My roommates, like in my original normal day-to-day house, moved out and went back to their respective like home countries, and that was not the most fun thing, because I really have a good time with all of them. But I'm also very much lucky to live in an entire building where I have like basically like all my best friends from like Montreal. So I moved down because there was like a free space in the other house, and I'm so glad that I'm with Vivek and his brother. And I'm just honestly like having a much better time, because I tried being in isolation and that's not fun. We think that, you know, when we're in isolation we could really focus on our work, and because that's the only thing, but honestly it gets very depressing and it gets very like lonely, and it gets difficult, honestly, and I end up being much more unproductive when I'm alone. And it's very nice to have someone to come back like and speak to, or like just you know, have like some sort of fun time with. And I also give a conscious effort to like meet people, like people I know from Montreal or people I know from McGill. I go and just like have like a socially distant walk rather, or I, you know, just have something to eat with them or something like that, and just like discuss about like life ideas, or just like have like a random chat with them. And I think that really helps through online school, because, you know, life can get very monotonous and very like boring and very like repetitive, and it's very easy to get very like it's very easy to lose motivation with the things that we're doing. But I also want to acknowledge like my privilege, or like how lucky I am with, and how appreciative I am for like all the people around me, because I think isolation is a very common reality for a lot of people during like this, you know, COVID pandemic kind of season. And I just wanted to say that like I'm holding all of you like close to my heart, and like if there's anything I can do on my end, if you want to study together, if you want to have like a virtual study session, or if you just want to even chat, like we can figure something out for sure. I just want to kind of put that out there. That's my first week at McGill University as a virtual student. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you got a few mental nuggets that you might be able to use during your time as an online student. I think I can cover a bit more about the different tips and tricks that people could use, but you know, this is like just my first week too, and we're all in this together. Definitely let me know how your online school is going right now, and we could definitely have a chat about that. Take care, stay safe, and sanitize. See you.